So what I want to do today is um, return to the topic that we discussed yesterday because there was some confusion about it from me, and I want to clarify it because I researched it since yesterday. Now I'm still waiting on a couple of confirmations. So in case that there's further clarification, then I'll let you know that in the future. But for now, here is how I can clarify the topic from yesterday. So yesterday's topic, the part that was confusing was, and of course, it's Vidura asks Maitreya, where does everything come from, etc. And Maitreya says that the seer wants to see the seen. That's where everything comes from. So there's this one specific spot where he says the seer feels incomplete without the seen because the seen is dormant. So he wakes up the seen and impregnates her. And the way that it was written in my translation is the content that she's impregnated with is living entities and time. But then two statements later, or even in the perhaps even in the very next statement, Maitreya says that the as a result of being impregnated, the first thing that awakens within Maya, the seen, is this thing called Mahatattva, which he describes as the amalgamation of all the living beings. So the contradiction there is, in one statement, it sounds like the living beings are being put into the seen, and in the other statement, it sounds like the living beings are already in there and they're getting woken up, right? So yesterday we tried to have we kind of stumbled across, or we came up with three different ways of resolving that. One way was that some living entities are already in there and some are being introduced by the glance. That's kind of a crappy answer, to be honest, because you have to it would require us to explain why. What's the difference between these two living entities? Why are some coming in from the outside? So that's kind of that's the least good of the three solutions we had. Unless you say, well, the ones that are coming in are a different class. The different class is Paramatma, the singular class. There's only one entity in that class. And that was actually one of the other explanations, is that the Paramatma life force is working on it along with time. That's a good explanation, except it's not exactly what's in the text itself. But at least it's not weird or confusing or contradictory. And then the other thing we said was maybe it's describing two types of manifestation. One is the internal manifestation of Bhagavan's reality, in which the living entities are already there, and one is the extrinsic reality in which the living entities have to be injected into it. That's also like, well, okay, maybe that's what it means, but it's not in the text itself that way. So what I wanted to do is just go back and look more carefully at the text itself. Because looking more carefully at the text itself, the Sanskrit of the statements, there's three statements, will get rid of this confusion. So it's actually my fault. And if I ever do an edit of the book, which you know I'll never do, because it's just the way I am. But if I ever do an edit of the book, I'll change the wording slightly so the confusion doesn't arise. But let's look at the statements. If you want to look these up for yourself, it's the third part or canto of the Bhagavatam, the 5th chapter, and the statements are number 26, 27, and 28. So 26 goes like this. Kalavritya tumayayam gunamayam adhokshaja purushenatma bhutena viryam adhata viryavan. That's the first statement. So you got kalavritya tu. Tu is the easiest, one of the easiest words you can learn in Sanskrit because it can't even be changed. It's just, it'll always be tu, and it means but, and it's like a really simple but very important word. So the word tu means that this object, the object in the sentence is Maya, Mayam, objective case. The object in the sentence is Maya, which is the scene, the thing which has power, Maya, to produce tangible objects. She is described as Gunamayam. Gunamayam, right? Maya, Mayanam, Mayayam, Gunamayam. Maya is Gunamaya, which means that she's fantastic. She's exceedingly qualified. She's very qualified. Guna means quality. She's full of quality. So it seems to me that the two is a but. So the feeling is, even though she's full of quality, she needs something. And we reviewed that accurately. We went over this point accurately in yesterday's session. It's just like women; they have everything that they need to make babies. They just need a little catalyst from outside. Literally, a little catalyst from outside. So that's what the word "tu" means. Simple. What is the catalyst that the scene needs? Kala, Vrita. So even if you're a hobbyist with Sanskrit, you'll recognize the word Kala, or even if you're an astrology enthusiast, you'll probably recognize the word Kala, because there's Ernst Willem's software is named Kala, right? Kala is time, and the word Kala, time, implies this is the thing which lets effects produce causes, so it implies destiny. The Sanskrit word for time implies the concept of destiny, and therefore Ernst uses it as the name for his software, Kala. So what the scene, the female absolute, needs is Kala, Vritta. Vritta means the activity or the function or the business. So it needs the active principle of time. That's the thing that Maya needs, even though otherwise she's totally Gunamaya. And the subject of the sentence, sentence have a subject and an object and a verb. The object is the thing the verb acts upon, and the subject is the thing that does the verb. The subject is adokshaja. Adokshaja. Adokshaja is a name for Bhagavan. It's a really super cool name. It's composed of aksha and ja with the prefix ada. Aksha is a senses, particularly eye, and ja means what comes from or what's born from, like janma. So akshaja means something that can be produced by the eye or by a sense. It means some sense experience. Akshaja means some kind of sensual experience. Adha akshaja. Adha means to be little or pushed down. So adhokshaja, adhokshaja is the one whose the experience of this being makes other experiences from your senses seem insignificant. It's a very cool name for Bhagavan. So that Adokshaja is the subject of the sentence. Adokshaja is the one who is going to give Gunavrita, Kalavrita, the time element to Maya, the scene. Now, Purushenatma Bhutina is the third line. So this line is in the third case. Third case is called instrumental. It means the thing which the verb uses as its tool to get something done. Like I eat with my hands, or I eat with a fork. The with in English, the with thing, that word with indicates the third case. So the way that Adokshaja gives Maya the Kala, the energy of time, is being described now. It's not directly. The Adokshaja or Bhagavan doesn't directly interact with Maya. And that's a very interesting point. If you remember way back to part 1 when we were going over Vyasa's Samadhi, where Vyasa had a vision of the absolute reality, he saw that Maya was tadapashrita, apashrita. She was in contact with Bhagavan, but a bit at a distance. And so here's some detail on that. Bhagavan doesn't directly interact with his external energy, but through something called Purusha, which is a male person. So he becomes some sort of a male person, Atma Bhuta, from his very self, created from as an expression of his very self as a Purusha or a male. Now, you know, Purusha is also synonymous for Vishnu. So basically, a Dokshaja or Krishna or Bhagavan, Swayam Bhagavan, to interact with Maya and produce the external world, doesn't directly get his hands involved in that and doesn't directly take time out for that. But he creates another form of himself, Atma Bhuta, which is the confusing part, which makes one think that what he's impregnating is also Atma Bhuta. But he creates, but it's Atma Bhutena. That's where my translation went wrong. So it's by the tool of an expansion of himself called Purusha, he does Viryam Adhata, impregnates. Virya means power, but the contextual meaning of virya is semen. And adhata means to give, and contextually it means impregnate. Viryam adhata means to impregnate. And he's described as viryavan. The guy's got plenty of power. All right, so that is a careful reading of the 26th statement. So carefully reading it makes you realize that the book didn't need to say that the potency that was impregnated into Maya was the living entities in time. Actually, the potency that was impregnated into Maya was time. Okay. So then all of a sudden it doesn't become confusing when they say that the living entities are suspended in Maya, which is essentially their egg. Hey, Waylon. I'm not sure what you mean, Melissa. Waylon, did you hear all this before? Because it was super interesting. If you just came in now, you missed the best part. But up till this point, maybe later you could rewind if you're really interested in this. Up to this point, we clarified the confusion from yesterday. So, all right. So, since we're on a roll, we can look at the next two statements too, just to see what they are. Tato bhavan mahat tattvam avyaktat kala choditat vigyanat matma dehastham vishwam vyanjam tamonada. So, what happens when time or kala gets put into Maya, gets inseminated into Maya? What happens then? Then chodita, kala makes some chodita. Time starts to catalyze things. Chodita means catalyzation or stimulation. So time starts to stimulate things, and it stimulates what? Avyaktat kala chodita. It stimulates the avyakta. Avyakta now is fourth case, which in English you'll say from, to produce something. Like you say from Hollywood, it means Hollywood produced it, right? So avyaktat kala chodita. From the avyakta being manifest, being being catalyzed. From the avyakta or the unmanifest being catalyzed by time, then tato bhavan, something comes into being. What? Mahat tattva. And so that's also where the second part of the confusing thing was what is Mahat tattva? Now again, as I said, in the next few days, as I'm getting confirmations and further research on this, if it gets further clarity, I'll bring it up again in the next few days. But the next line of the shloka explains what the Mahatattva is. Vijnana. Vijnana means consciousness. Vijnana Atma. So it's the souls. The Mahatattva is the living being which produces consciousness. Or maybe it is the facility for consciousness. Melissa, the maid Purusha is the man to the property female, feminine. I wonder if this masculine has matter or is pure consciousness. So you have a misunderstanding which is very good to bring out into the light. Then you wonder if, first, their pure consciousness is a theoretical construct only. Consciousness, the seer, the sight, and the seen, as we discussed yesterday, is one unit that's inseparable. Just as the sun is not separable from its light and its heat, or fire is not separable from its light and its heat. Prakriti is the matter of the Purusha, and they're one unit. They're not separate beings. Think of it that way. So the Mahatattva is the thing that Maya becomes first. So just like if you impregnate an egg inside a womb, then it starts to develop into a zygote from a little egg. So the egg itself will be called the avyakta, which is just the potentiality of the life form. And then when time is inseminated into the egg, then it starts to develop. Then that avyakta, or that potential form of the egg, starts to come out and become real. The first thing it becomes is this thing called Mahatattva. What is the Mahatattva? It's the Vijnanatma. It's the consciousness which Atma Dehasta will situate itself in its own forms. So which is going to individuate itself explicitly. It's this previously potential or latent consciousness in the scene, which is going to individuate itself and activate itself and be individuated in separate forms. Atma Dehasta. Vijnanatma Atma Dehastam Vishvam Vyanjams. And by doing that, by differentiating itself into individuated form, it creates everything. Vishva, it means everything, and Vyanja means calls it into being. It's the opposite of avyakta. Vyakta and Vyanja, the thing which has been manifested in detail. Vishvam Vyanjam Tamonuda. And this gets rid of the tamas, or the darkness, which is cause everything to dissolve and sleep. The time element introduced by Purusha causes the avyakta, or the unmanifest conscious entities in Maya, to wake up and begin to manifest themselves as different individuals, thus causing everything to begin to come into being and driving away this darkness which made everything undifferentiated. And then the third statement, Sopyam Shaguna Kalatma Bhagavad Drishtigochara Atmanam Vyakarodatma Vishvasyasya Srikshaya. So this third statement is still talking about Mahatattva by the pronoun Sa. So saying that Mahatattva, there's a portion of it, an amsha, or it might be the portions of the guna. Portions of it mixes with Maya's guna. So Pyamsha guna kalatma, under the impetus of time. And Bhagavad Drishti Gochara, and overseen by Bhagavan. Maitreya will elaborate on this in the next section that we cover. That the evolution isn't complete, that the living entities in Maya aren't completely self-sufficient to evolve matter into its forms. They're a little bit helpless. We are a little bit helpless to control it because it's bigger than us. So Bhagavan has to participate somewhat by giving Drishti Gochara, which means by giving, those are two astrological terms, Drishti and Gochara. Gochara means within the realm of movement, and Drishti means to see something. So Bhagavan Drishti Gochara. Bhagavan is overseeing the activity, not participating, but overseeing it. And Kala. So the two forces which are helping living entities manifest themselves and manifest the universe is Kala and Bhagavan's Drishti. Yes, exactly. Catherine answered. He uses galactic center, and even worse than that, he uses equatorial projection instead of ecliptic projection. So, Atmanam Vyakarod Atma Vishvasya Srikshaya. When the Mahatattva interacts with one of Maya's qualities under the oversight of Bhagavan and by the force of time, something happens. What happens is Atmanam Vyakarot, Atma, a thing which will enable Susriksha, the living beings, Vishvatma, to conceive of themselves as Vyakarot Atma. Very interesting. As distinct, differentiated, disconnected entities. So that is called Ahamkara. Or in this text, literally, it's called Aham Tattva. You have Mahat Tattva and then Aham Tattva. It's in the next text. It's named as Aham Tattva. All right, so that hopefully cleared up the confusion from yesterday. And the way that we clear it up is just by looking at the text more carefully to find out that the idea that living entities come into Maya with the glance of Bhagavan isn't actually what Maitreya is saying. It might be what some people teach, but it's not what Maitreya is saying. What Maitreya is saying is that the living entities are constitutionally situated in Maya, which only makes sense because living entities are part of the things which Bhagavan sees. And Maya is the seen. The totality of things that are to be seen is Maya. So what comes from Bhagavan, according to Maitreya, is Kala Vritti, the power of time, time's power, where the business of time, the effect of time comes in, activates Maya, then the conscious living entities wake up and begin to differentiate themselves by manifesting Mahatattva and then Ahankara. By saying that Maya is asleep, is that a way of saying that her consciousness has not been awakened, or does Maya have consciousness that is asleep? They go through cycles. Just like you sleep and you wake up, we have that basic pattern because that's a pattern that's in Bhagavan. There's a pattern of rest alternating with activity. And you might wonder why that pattern is there. It's because of the experience of pleasure. The experience of pleasure decreases if it's constant. Remember, that's the basis of what Bhagavan is. It's an entity that wants to experience pleasure. It's consciousness, and therefore it wants to experience pleasure. And so it doesn't just constantly experience pleasure because that would dull the sensitivity to the pleasure. So it has cycles of sleep and wakeness. And that's why everything which you see has these cycles, because everything's produced from that. So there's going to be periods where consciousness releases and relaxes and disengages. And when that happens, all the activity ceases and things go to sleep. All the living entities in Maya go to sleep and everything ceases and darkness covers everything. And then when Vishnu wakes up again, he looks at Maya and it becomes active again. And then things come back into being and then the light, so-called light, comes out. Where does she go when she rests? Or does something stop existing? I don't think she doesn't go anywhere. It's she's not contained in anything else. Everything is contained in her. She sleeps. And when she sleeps, the activities which she was functioning and performing cease. So things which she has manifest cease to be manifest. So that's when you'll get no more solar system, no more planet, no more anything, no more gravity, no more anything. Everything falls apart. No more structures, no more earth, water, fire, air. Everything just falls back into causality itself and rests in perfect balance. All right. Any other questions? There's a great question. So now that has been clarified, I hope. We will continue from where we were yesterday. Sleeping is so important, really. This is actually one of the biggest lessons for people to learn. For simple how to enjoy your life more is just emulate Bhagavan. He doesn't go at it constantly 24/7. He takes a break. You'll actually have more energy. Like if you just have that Vegas attitude of like partying until sunrise, you're not going to live very long, and you're not going to really enjoy that much. Most of your time, you're going to be really tired and depressed. If you really want to enjoy life, then you do it in balance, where you balance your rest, and you also keep some disengagement from a thing. It's like the hedonists really got it wrong. The hedonists just are like, let's just have as much sex as possible. That's not the best way to enjoy sex at all. Or let's just eat as much food as possible. There's actual philosophers that had that approach to life. But you're not going to enjoy the food as much as if you maintain a healthy diet. So you can see that even Bhagavan, the supreme enjoyer, has a cycle of activity and inactivity. There's a subtext going on here about how nakshatras are calculated. It's going on in the chat. Part of it's just that he sees a statement in Sri Siddhanta which says that the North Pole is the anchor for the nakshatras. So therefore, it would only make sense that the nakshatras will be projected onto something anchored to the North Pole, which is the equator. But the thing is, the North Pole is not the Earth's North Pole, it's Dhruva, which is the celestial North Pole. And that's why it's related to the ecliptic. The thing which is anchored to the celestial North Pole is the ecliptic. All right, now let's see what evolves. So let's see, how much time do we got? No more time. So you got Karnadakshayi Vishnu. You got Vishnu, who is the specialized expansion of Adokshaja Bhagavan, who interacts with Maya, the totality of things which can be experienced. The interaction is sexual in nature. He impregnates Maya by putting time into her. And when time is in Maya, it causes things, it catalyzes changes. And then the consciousness that's latent in Maya will wake up and begin to create itself distinctly and create distinct things within Maya. The first thing that it will create is its own sense of doership, which is Mahatattva. The first thing it will create, after it wakes up, it's Mahatattva, and then what it creates is its own sense of individuality, which is Ahankar. And then that Ahankar is going to interact with the three fundamental qualities of Maya, which is Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. And by interacting with those three fundamental qualities, it produces things which can be perceived, the tools to perceive those things, and the powers that use the tools to perceive those things. So like mind, body, and world. Those are the three things. Mind is produced by Sattva. Body is produced by Rajas, with all the senses in it and all the operating mechanisms in it. And then the world of objects that the body can interact with and perceive is produced by Tamas. Samantha. Oh, Anil also has a question. So this is what we'll do. So that's the paradigm there of how things begin to evolve. Next session, tomorrow, we will look at how do the objects of the world evolve from tamas, which is not new material to you, but maybe Maitreya has some new angles on it. And then how do the tools evolve from rajas, and how does the user of the tools, the power to use the tools, evolve from sattva? Now, let's just finish up today by looking at these questions. Oh, that's a good question, Abhishek. So Anil says, how do you deal with people that are less conscious than us? It's frustrating to try to make them understand things for their own good. What's the best way to deal with it? Be cold and don't try it anymore. So I really, let me answer this very frankly, not because I'm in a different boat than you, but because I'm in the same boat as you. And so therefore, I can tell you with high criticism what kind of boat we're in. The kind of boat that we're in is that we think that we're better than other people, but we're not. And we think that we want to improve other people, but that's not really what it's all about. Oh, we got the door here now. We got a package. So you actually just want other people to think what you want, and that's why it bothers you that they don't. That's all it is. So if you can get rid of that feeling of why doesn't this person agree with me, then what will be left over is just kindness or compassion, and then you would deal with those people the same way you deal with a child. And let's see another question, Samantha. I saw a video online showing dark energy eventually swallowing up the whole universe. Is that Maya sleeping? Maybe. The way that we see the universe through human eyes is fascinating, and the way that it correlates to the way the sages describe it in the Bhagavatam is also fascinating, but it's difficult to say exactly what's what. Maybe it is. Abhishek's question is, where's Swabhava in this game? Last time, Canto 2, we had Swabhava plus Sattva equals Mahatattva. So I guess then the Swabhava is the Avyakta. Seems to be analogous to the Avyakta. That's a very good question, Abhishek. I'm going to take up that question in the future. I'll see if I get a good answer. All right, guys. So tomorrow we'll go forward. Today we just have to clarify yesterday's stuff. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow.